Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Game of Thrones Winter's Coming. In today's episode we are going to take a look at the update that hit a few days ago. The update had some new changes to the game, which includes a couple of Commander Awakenings for Russell and Winton. Then we had some improvements in regards to the Battle of the Narrow Sea event, which might suggest that it will be a returning event, which would also make sense considering I believe it was the event that gave the Sorin weapon, so it would make sense that it will come back again. And yeah, then there are some bug fixes, and well, although we will be taking a look at Commander Awakenings, we will also take a look at something that isn't listed here, which is the new weapons that have been added, which will also kind of make some interesting discussion happening. So we'll take a look at things right now. We will start out with Russell's Awakening as the first one out of the two Awakenings that has been added in this patch. And the general passives or hidden abilities from Russell is focus around cavalry defense, increased stone production, and density stone capacity, as well as gathering speed, which is a bit disappointing in my opinion. I had hoped that he at least would have some more cavalry focused awakening stats, but that might just be what the case is. I mean, it looks like it's a passive bonus similar to what it was with Varys, so there's at least that, but still it's a little bit iffy only having the cavalry defense, but I suppose it's better than nothing since it's passive, so you don't have to deploy the commander to actually have them active. On top of that, we have his Awakening skill, which is in his God of War Blessing. Immediately when owned, total health plus 3 times the number of awakened 4-star male commanders up to 30%. I don't know if that means that it is something that is applied without having the commander out in the setup that you're using, but it usually says when it's something that's applied immediately when owned, then it's usually something that's passive, which means that it's something it shouldn't require the commander to be active in it. I believe that Sheila has something similar when we look at her. You can see here, apply immediately when owned. Upkeep consumption rate is reduced by 50%, bone attack plus 25, which is really great. Which essentially means that when looking at Russell, you can pretty much get a guaranteed up to 30% total health, which is, in my opinion, decent, especially for free-to-play accounts. I personally think it's decent, so it's something to consider. If you don't have any idea what to use your elite tokens on, then you can use them then on him. And of course it's very situational, but it doesn't hurt to have, at least in my opinion. The last commander we have is the Winton Awakening, and Winton Awakening is somewhat different compared to the Russell Awakening in the sense that you can see in the hidden ability that his stats required have actually the commander deployed to be added into it. And of course the interesting part about the Winton Awakening is that it has army defense reduction, cavalry attack, and enemy infantry health reduction, which makes it rather situational. You'll have to know that the enemy has infantry front line to actually get a use out of it. Overall it's kind of iffy. It would have been a lot more interesting if it was passive, similar to Russell, but sadly it's not. And yeah, it does mean that his value drops significantly in my opinion. He still has combat rating in the tavern, so 2-star is always possible. I believe he at least has combat rating in the tavern. His Awakening skill, Silent Blade, is when the front row's health increases by 15%. After allied troops lands a total of 50 weakness attacks, one random enemy commander will be silent for 12 seconds. This effect can only be used one time during the battle. Silence means that they are unable to cast active army skills, which is a way to counter the female setup. 12 seconds is of course a long time, but considering that you need 50 weakness attacks, means that he has very limited usage. You will have to use him together with Jamie for the Jamie weakness setup, but Jamie is spear focused, while the setup in general is also more spear focused, but like Winton is cav focused, so it's kind of a little bit iffy. Otherwise you can use it just in a normal cav setting and hit against someone that has imps, but you will still require a lot of time to actually get the 50 weakness attacks through. So the value of the silence will drop significantly. And something that's important to note is that you can't use this with Sinara, because Sinara cancels out weakness attacks. Even though there are extra hits and so on, it denies weakness attacks, so it basically blocks his entire awakening. So overall it's very limited synergies that you have available, and it's very expensive, it's very limited usage, it's only usable against, or has high value against the female setup. It's very situational in a lot of sense, so I would say this is probably a lot worse than the Russell Awakening. I don't really see the point with it. It's very niche, and if you have very limited elite tokens, invest into something else, because I personally don't really see this being usable really in any way or shape or form. Lastly, we have the weapons that we also wanted to talk about. Even though they weren't mentioned in the patch notes, it's something that has been added to the game. It's currently running in the archery event and is gotten in the same way that the Layla, Jamie and Sinara weapons are gotten, which means paying a bunch of money to actually get the swords guaranteed, or the weapons guaranteed, or hope for a ton of luck that with a couple of attempts that you can get it. Yeah, it's quite an investment if you're unlucky. So the weapons behind the 3 new commanders, which is Andrea, Liana and Miranda, have to have something special bound to them, and in my opinion they do, because when we're looking at the Andrea weapon, you can see that the Soul Awakening or Awakening skill upgrade that the weapon brings is that it increases infantry attack by 35%, which is something it didn't do before. I'm pretty sure it usually was defense 30% instead, so it increases attack instead. And every time Andrea casts an active army skill, it randomly increases either infantry defense or infantry attack by 5%, can be used up to 15 times, which is a total increase of 75% split on those two stats. So overall the weapon has the potential to make an increase of 110%, and it also opens up the option of using commanders in specific setups. For example, because it adds the effect based on active army skill casts, it means that if you want to get faster value out of the weapons, then you have to combine them with the female skill setup, which is the Layla setup that triggers extra active army skills from other commanders. And the interesting part, or the good part, is that both Andrea or Liana and Miranda are all females, and they all have each their own lineup. So with the weapon on top of them, you could argue that you can actually use them in different lineups. For example, Andrea you can use for female setup for female lineup together with Haley and Arya, and then maybe a fourth one which could be Marjorie, for example. That way you have an infantry setup, for example. Sorry, you have to use Layla instead of Marjorie because you have to have the key commander inside. Or you could do the one with Miranda, with Annie and others. So it opens up possibilities and makes commanders be usable in different ways than when they weren't before, which is something I really like, and I hope that other weapons in the future might adapt the same style, that they give commanders the ability to be used in certain setups that's not traditional, bound to their original awakening skill. And overall, I find it really interesting they added these. I just find it a shame that they are so horribly expensive to get, but some people are lucky and can get them for almost free, so maybe I'm just not one of the lucky ones, I don't know. But yeah, really nice addition to the game. I think it will shape up things a little bit, and hopefully they will continue along that road, making weapons quite interesting in some cases for certain commanders to make them more viable in different setups. But this pretty much covers what I wanted to talk about from the last patch. I hope you liked the video. Comment and subscribe if you're new to the channel. And if you want to play the game, then there's going to be a link down in the description below for both the game and where to download it, as well as the Game of Thrones When It's Coming Discord group, which is a good way to get into contact if you need help regarding some technical issues, or just want to get to know people or find alliance and stuff like that. And yeah, we have the UC finals soon as well, so look forward to that, and wishing everyone good luck and have fun. Bye bye.